Welcome to Screencast 22 for the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland Introduction to Vectorworks. It's taken us 21 screencasts to get here, but now we're going to have a look at 3D. And the reason it took 21 screencasts was because I think it's critically important to get the basics right. If you've really gone through the last 21 screencasts and understood what I've been talking about, the transition into 3D will be much easier. 3D is really useful for visualization of sets on stage. We use them in lots and lots of departments. They're used for checking spacings and sight lines, masking, especially vertical sight lines. So if we are wanting to check to see how high the lighting bar can be in order to be hidden from the border in front of it, that's an incredibly difficult thing to do on a plan drawing, but on a side view with all the objects drawn to the correct size, then it's actually a fairly easy thing to do. And spending time in the 3D world, or spending time with the model, with the plan, with the section, will save you a vast amount of time on stage, and that's the time that is expensive in the real world. And your crew and your the people working around you won't thank you for not doing the planning in advance. It's in the virtual world, within the plans and the sections and the 3D models. We don't need to do super complicated things. We can use blocks and extruded shapes in order to represent things on stage. If you have a cart on stage with large wooden wheels and a canopy and things like that, that can just be a rectangle, as long as we know the size of it and where it's going to be, so that we can place it in the wing and then have a look at the plan and check it's going to fit and that people can't see it when it's off stage. A rectangle in some sightlines is good enough, but at least plan it. Don't get on stage in the tech rehearsal and discover that we can see it in the wing, and then we're trying to hang new masking in lunchtime, something like that hasn't been taken into consideration, which then is in front of speakers or lights are shining on it. No one's going to thank you for that, because it's not difficult to do if you just go through these screencasts. It's very easy to create 3D shapes from closed polygons. That's why I was going on in the previous screencast about closed polygons. So if we have a closed polygon, we can extrude it. So I am going to show you what I mean by that. I am going to draw let's call it a 500mm diameter circle, and I will draw a 500. I've taken the snapping off for this one, so I need to draw the 500. Use the snapping tool palette, and we'll just do the triangle again. Regular polygon along the edge, 500. So these are similar objects that we used previously in the move by points tool, if you remember back there. Again, we'll use the colors. I can't remember what the colors were, so we can just do new colors. It's not important. It just allows me to demo a couple of things. I think that was probably similar or the same colors. I don't know. It doesn't matter anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my 2D object. If it was an irregular shape and it was something I'd drawn, I need to make sure it's closed. It's critically important to make sure it's closed. And then I'm going to do model extrude. Now there's Command E, again that's the shortcut that I know and I use a lot. Extrude will pull the object towards me as the viewer. So extrusion would be from we're looking down on it at the moment, from the tabletop, from the stage floor, from however you want to think about it, up towards me. I'm hovering over the top of it, looking down on it, 1000. Now the color seems to have gone from it. It hasn't, it just seems to have gone at the moment. If I choose the flyover tool here and click and drag and move the shape round, you can see that I've pulled that circle up into a cylinder kind of shape. The reason the color's gone is because the color only exists in the 2D world. That was filled for a 2D shape. This is now a 3-dimensional shape and doesn't have a 2-dimensional element to it. If I want to see the color, I go to the top right where the little teapot is, and it's in wireframe at the moment, which is why there is no color, because it's wireframe. And if I just click shaded, we'll see the color. So that's the color in the 3D world. It still remains the color we can see in the object. Yes, it's fine. Don't show that message again. I understand. You can still see the color in the attributes here. So you knew it was still red. It's just that we're viewing it as a wireframe at the moment. When we get complicated objects, if we were spinning around the Chandler or spinning around the Athenaeum, which is in full 3D, if we do it in wireframe, we can do it fairly quickly without much glitching at all. If we wanted to put shaded renders and colors into everything, then it would be a lot more processing power. So wireframe is the default kind of when we spin around into 3D. I'm going to extrude the square just now, so I'm just going to Command E because that's what I tend to use, and we'll just do it 500 high at the moment. So you can see I did that in the 3D world, so you can see it popping up from a square into a cube. One thing I want to show you is that see bot Z, so that's the Z height. X is across the stage. I think we went over this. X is across the stage. Y is up and down the stage, if we're talking about a stage, or X is across the page, Y up and down the page, and Z is the vertical height towards us as a viewer. If I made that the bottom of the cube to be 1000, which I know is the height of the cylinder, then the cube will set up in the world. So there you can see that it's sitting. If I wanted to place it on top of the cylinder, it's much easier if I go back to top plan view and place it on the cylinder. I know that's exactly in the right place. I could even choose isometric, right isometric here, and I can see. And if I want to do a little render there shaded, you can see that the cube is sitting on top of the cylinder. So the bot 0 is the height from which it starts. So the bottom of it is there, and then it was extruded 500 mil up. It's still a 500 extrusion, but it starts at 1000. That one is 1000 extrusion, which starts at 0. What we're going to look at now is that we can extrude that triangle. So extrude that triangle there, 500. If I wanted that triangle to be sitting, so again, say I wanted it in the other orientation, I can do a little bit of, I could go to the right, and then I could use the rotation tool that we've used before. Click there, that's the rotation point, flip it over, hold down shift, and there's the triangle rotated over. Go back to front, yeah, that's fine. Okay, and then we can place that. Now what you'll notice is that seems to, well, let's see what happens. It seems to have gone onto the right place, but no, it's not quite. And then we'll need to go to top plan, and here's my drawing, there it is. And then we need to place that there. So it's a little bit of shuffling around. Working in the 3D world, you're obviously got 3 dimensions without appearing to state the obvious, but it's kind of quite easy to kind of lose track of your objects, and everything's gone a bit weird. My mouse has gone weird. It's easier to lose track of objects. These tools are your friends, and there's our shaded object here. You don't have to extrude to looking down. If we wanted to go to the front, so what I did was that, remember, I extruded that rectangle, then I had to flip it round. If I drew the rectangle in this plane, sorry, the triangle in this plane here, I can draw the triangle there, and then I can extrude it towards me. Then we should see that the triangle is extruded. I still need to place it, but you can see that the extrusion happened towards me as a viewer. It didn't have to happen from the table up, so it is, but it would always be towards you as a viewer. So have a little play around with extruding some shapes, some basic geometric shapes. Also top plan, remember you can make up your, what I would suggest you do is to use your 2D adding surfaces together. So we do that first, modify, add surface, and then extrude that up by 500 mil. You know, do your extrusions, do your 2D shapes first, and then extrude them up rather than trying to build that out of a cylinder and a cube. We will do that in the next tutorial. It is possible, but it's a little easier if you can do your shapes first. And pay attention to the Z height as well of the objects. So that one, bot Z, that one's, because I placed that up, it doesn't have a bot Z, I placed that manually up there. That one, bot Z as well. So have a play around with that. That's probably a very good reason why that should have been done on the ground and then given a Z rather than the way I did it. Because it doesn't have the information when I look at it. Enjoy. We're going to glue some 3D shapes together in the next tutorial.